Well, everyone, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The Royal Rumble video that I originally intended to post this week, I'm going to move to next week. That was a executive decision that I made, mainly because I felt like, you know what, the Rumble's next week. It'll probably be better to put the Rumble video next week. So next week's Royal Rumble video will have a bit of a... I'll be talking about past Royal Rumble matches, so hopefully you all enjoy that. I will also be previewing the Royal Rumble event, so hopefully that all comes off well. But that video has been postponed to next week, just to better align with the Royal Rumble, and for no other reason besides that. So this video is likely going to be very brief, because there isn't a whole heck of a lot to talk about. I do want to talk a little bit about the return of TNA Wrestling and the Hard to Kill event, which I did watch. But before I jump into all that, and this is something I haven't done in a long time, but I'm thinking about bringing back the question and answers videos that I used to do way back in the early days of this channel, about back around when I first started. I haven't done them probably in over a decade. I'd have to go back and check to see when was the last question and answer video I did. But I've decided to go ahead and bring that back, do a little fan mail thing, and have you all send me questions, and I will answer them. The questions are a free-for-all. There's no theme. You can ask me whatever you want. If you ask me something that I really don't want to answer, like if it's too personal or something, then I just won't answer it. But I say, my advice to you, go for broke and just ask whatever you want. And there's a high probability that I'm going to answer it because I am very tough to offend. So how can you send me questions? You send them to me either on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. You can DM me on Twitter, the link is in the description, or you can send them to the newly created Gmail account that I just made for the express purpose of having Q&A videos. You can send the questions to that. That is also in the description down below, so be on the lookout for that. So, with all of that said, what is there to talk about in the world of wrestling? Well, there was the insanity online involving Tony Khan, Jinder Mahal, Hook, Cage Match, the website Cage Match, and all that other nonsense. And really all it did was make a uninteresting World Heavyweight title match that main evented Raw somewhat worth checking out for those of you that were following the online drama. Me personally, I don't think there's anything they can do that can get me to care about a Jinder Mahal match. I think the online discourse was very immature and a little silly. Tony Khan, it's funny. I keep saying wrestlers need to learn how to use social media, and Tony Khan is he's the head of the company and head of the AEW. He should learn how to use social media. But I want to bash him, but then on the other hand, I've seen some of the wacky shit that Vince did outside of social media, so I'm just kind of do you want to be cringy off of social media or cringy on social media? You got to pick one or the other, I guess. I don't know, but the whole situation was embarrassing, and all I did was kind of make an uninteresting world title match, I guess, slightly more interesting for some people. Me, not so much. There's talk that Seth got an injury from the match that's being evaluated. Again, I'm the type of guy that's that could be a work. I don't know, but I would hate to think that Seth would get injured in a match that probably shouldn't have happened in the first place. That would be absolutely horrible, especially with a WrestleMania match with Punk on the way. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. I don't know, but Raw was very uninteresting this week. SmackDown was very uninteresting this week. I'll be honest, R-Truth is probably the best thing in WWE right now. And that is a crazy thing I never thought I would ever say, but he's legitimately entertaining and making Raw fun to watch. Just with this wacky... It's basically a ripoff of what they did with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, and they're doing it with R-Truth and the Judgment Day, where he's this goofy character that's trying to associate himself with the powerful, dominant faction and bringing some life to things. And he's just... Yeah, it's basically a ripoff of that storyline, but he's just so entertaining and so funny and so energetic in the role that it's legitimately fun to watch, and I want to see where they go with it. Ultimately, it's going to end with R-Truth having to feud with the Judgment Day or something, I would think, but for what it is, it's making for some entertaining television, so I do give them a lot of credit for that. But right now, I think WWE's in kind of a holding pattern where it's let's just get to the Rumble, find out what we're going to get at WrestleMania, And then WrestleMania should be, because I think we're all just kind of waiting for that and seeing what we're going to get come WrestleMania time. Rhea versus Becky is all but confirmed, even though Becky lost to Nia Jax for some reason recently. That seems like a misstep now if Rhea and Becky was the plan, but I don't know. But we'll find out more after the Royal Rumble. But it looks like things are shaping up come WrestleMania time, and right now they're just trying to get to the Rumble with a series of kind of like uneventful shows, and then everything will heat up once WrestleMania season really kicks off. AEW, again, the main complaint against them, and it's been my major complaint, it's been a lot of people's major complaint against them, is that they've prioritized long competitive matches over story. And it's just exhausting. Like, it all just looks the same after a while, and I'm kind of getting, like, is Rampage even worth watching? Is Collision even worth watching most of the time? There's some every once in a while there'll be something good that happens on one of the AEW shows, but it's just drowned out with so much minutia and so much, again, like, too heavy a presence from New Japan and way too heavy a presence from Ring of Honor, and it's just, everything just kind of feels overbloated, overcrowded, and kind of a mess. And, you know, when you've got 3 shows a week, you've got time to fill. I personally felt like that I had my reservations when they added Rampage to the schedule. I had my reservations. I definitely had reservations when they added Collision to the schedule, even with CM Punk. Without him, it's just dead weight at this point. But it's just that they need a spark, and they need like a direction, and they need somebody to try to make sense out of all this, because right now it just feels like they're letting the guys go out there and have whatever kind of match they want without much rhyme or reason. There's too many belts. There's too many belts. That's the other problem. This tournament, this Continental Classic that they're doing, it's going to be an annual thing, and it ended up being an excuse to create yet another title belt that gets defended on TV every other week. And it's like, who cares about any of this? Everybody's got a belt now. It doesn't friggin' matter. But so that's AEW's problem right now. It's too convoluted, too messy, too much going on, and they need to like take the foot off the pedal and just calm the heck down and trim the stuff down a little bit, because right now it's too much to keep up with. And again, I'm a guy who's like, I've got my finger on the wrestling pulse, as it were. Like, I know what Ring of Honor is, I know what New Japan is, I know what a lot of these titles are. It's like, look, it's getting hard for me to keep track of it all because there's so much going on right now. And that's something that AEW needs to fix. And not having MJF there is really, really going to hurt. Because he was kind of carrying that company on his back for a while. And now it's just like, yeah. I mean, we've got the Sting retirement tour going on. It looks like the final match is going to be Sting and Darby Allin versus the Young Bucks. Not my first pick, but I mean, personally, my pick would have been either Sting versus MJF, or if they wanted to keep Sting in a tag match for understandable reasons, Sting and Darby versus MJF and Adam Cole, which can't happen now given the storyline progression of things. But that would have been my match, personally. That would have been my pick. And let him close the pay-per-view too, because that would have been a main event level tag team match. And MJF goes over Sting, and bada bing, bada boom, there you go. And now it's like, oh, it's the Young Bucks. Okay, I guess that's okay, but it's not the type of match I would have wanted to see Sting have in his last go-around. But, you know, the Bucks, they put a lot of action into what they do, and that's probably, the idea is probably that, you know, whatever perceived limitations that Sting has, some of them justified, you know, the man is in his 60s, that the Bucks, like, flying all over the place will kind of make up for it, and Darby flying all over the place will make up for it, and all kinds of fun stuff. But we'll just have to wait and see how all of that goes. But one final thing I want to dive into are some of the pay-per-views that have happened in January. I don't think I've talked about Wrestle Kingdom 18, which my basic impressions of that show, Wrestle Kingdom is a show that I've watched every year since I started watching the Tokyo Dome shows. Wrestle Kingdom 9 was my first, and I've made it a point to watch Wrestle Kingdom every year. I thought this year's show was okay. It definitely feels like they've lost a lot of luster because a you know, a lot of the top stars have left, and the ones that did stay are starting to age out a little bit. Naito's starting to look a little older. I mean, yes, he's a star, but he's starting to look a little older. Sonata's not that interesting. I mean, I'd rather have Sonata than Evil, but Sonata's just not that interesting. Tanahashi's aging out, and it's starting to feel kind of tired, a lot of what New Japan is doing. But there were some good things. I thought Okada and Danielson had a good match. That was a good match without having to be a super-duper finisher-festy type of thing, which is always nice to see. So there was some good stuff on there. It was, you know, peaks and valleys, ups and downs, but nothing truly special. Nothing, not what I'm used to seeing at Wrestle Kingdom, which Wrestle Kingdom, you know, for a few years there was like... it had basically taken WrestleMania's place as like the can't miss event of the year. Like when they did Jericho and Omega that one year, it was I was like, dude, no way. That was I was tempted to watch that one live, which would have meant I would have had to stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning or past whatever time it was. I would have had to get up at an ungodly hour to watch it, but I was tempted. I didn't, but I was tempted. And now it's just kind of like, I don't know, it just doesn't have that same spark that it once did. So, I don't know. And maybe part of that is coming from the fact that I haven't watched New Japan in about a year, not since the previous Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm just not as interested as I once was. But them's the breaks. Another show that I watched was TNA's Hard to Kill 2024, the return of TNA Wrestling, the TNA branding. And I thought the show overall was good, with a great energy to it, where it's like, you know, it felt like a fresh coat of paint. It felt like the fans were digging what they were given. And it was overall, like, fun to watch because of the energy and the whole experience. It felt like there was some kind of a rejuvenation with the show. The card itself was kind of take or leave, most of it. The X Division 3-way was exactly what you would expect it to be. The Ultimate X with the women, I guess, was fine for what it was. I thought the Hammerstone-Alexander match was really, really good. I don't know if I would have had Hammerstone lose his first match in, but Hammerstone is a guy I've been really high on for a long time, and to me, he's a guy that WWE should have gone after. He's a guy that AEW should have gone after, but AEW's roster is kind of bloated, and WWE's roster, you know, is pretty huge too, so I don't know if there were just... not a lot of interest in a guy who's kind of, I don't want to say unproven, but a guy who hasn't really been on too big of a stage before. So I think he's a great pickup for TNA and really makes me interested in that brand because I'm really, really high on him. Again, I don't know if I would have had him lose his first match in, but it is what it is. And I thought the match was very, very good. A nice, hard-hitting match between a TNA mainstay, an Impact mainstay, now TNA mainstay in Alexander, and a promising young talent in Hammerstone. And I you know, now that I'm thinking about it, man, maybe they should have brought Hammerstone in to be part of Adam Cole's group, but then he might have gotten lost in the shuffle. I don't know, but whatever, because Hammerstone does have a history with MJF, which, what a twist that would have been. But anyway, I'm just thinking out loud. Moose winning the title back, I think, was probably a good move. Do a title change first night in, and Moose is an impressive guy. He's another one I'm surprised hasn't been picked up by anybody, because he's just an athletic freak. He's big, great look. You know, there's a innate charisma there. I'm sure WWE or AEW would, well, more so WWE, they would want to rebrand him and change his name, but that's easy. Like, that's not too bad. And it's like, I don't know, he's just a guy I feel like would probably benefit from being on a bigger stage, but he's the TNA World Champion right now, and that's a good thing. And of course, the show ended with the big surprise of Nick Nemeth coming to TNA. The former Dolph Ziggler is now a TNA superstar, and it actually did kind of feel like, oh, they got somebody. And Ziggler, you know, not necessarily a huge main eventer, but he was a WWE mainstay for a very long time and was present on WWE television for a very long time and was really well liked and respected. So having him there in TNA, it kind of feels like, okay, that's pretty good. And I checked out Hard to Kill as kind of like a sampling of like, okay, am I going to get back into TNA and watch it week to week? I've decided, you know what, they kind of got me. It's like, okay, let's see what they got. And I'll be tuning into Impact sometime this weekend. And maybe that'll become part of my habitual wrestling viewing, because right now, like, Rampage can be dropped easily because that's skippable as all get out. Collision, you know. Okay, so Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, and Collision. I can probably get through all 4 of those shows in about 2 hours total, combined. Like, if I was going to marathon all the wrestling shows of the week, And if I skip commercials and all of the pointless stuff that's just not interesting to me, or if a match is going too long and I skip ahead a couple of minutes, I can get through Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, and Collision in probably about 2 to 3 hours total. You think about it, it's like, man, that's a lot of condensing for a lot of wrestling programs. Like, well, they waste their time a lot. What can I say? And, you know, I can... With that, I can probably fit TNA in there, and it'll be interesting to see like what TNA kind of brings to the table at this point, because, you know, with this recent kind of resurgence of the TNA brand, is this going to create another situation where you've got WWE at top, AEW, which is kind of the WCW, which is the number 2, and then an ECW, like a much smaller company, but an energetic and exciting one at kind of a distant number 3 that's getting attention and buzz. I don't know. Maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part, but it's fun to think about. And right now it's like TNA it's pretty interesting. It's like, all right, I tuned into Hard to Kill just to see what you got, and I liked what I saw, so I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. Going back to the old days, because I was a huge TNA supporter back in like the mid-2000s, like around the time, like 2004 is when I started watching. And then I was there when they got on Spike TV. I was there, you know, I was diehard ride or die TNA, you know, 05, 06 for sure. And then when they got Kurt Angle, I was like, oh my God, here we come. And then it was kind of like, again, peaks and valleys, hot and cold for various periods. And then, you know, the 2010s rolled around. I was like, phew, and they've been kind of knocking on death's door ever since. They're still around. I don't know how they did it, but they're still around. And now it's like, okay, they might have something here. We'll see. I don't know what the future holds for TNA, but it's this might be kind of riding the high of like an old school Raw, when they did everything in the old Raw set, and everybody was like, whoa, that looks cool, and everything, and everybody all popped for a week, and then it's just kind of business as usual after that. I don't know if this is going to be like that, where it's like once the high and the nostalgia wears off, then it's just kind of like, oh, we're just kind of back to, you know, kind of a mundane wrestling show. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. I will say this, I did like the look of the ring with the big TNA logo in the ring. I thought that looked neat, and kind of reminded me again of old WCW, the old WCW logo in the center of the blue mat and everything. It just looked neat, and it's something that WWE doesn't do, so it's a nice little way to kind of help them stand out a little bit. It's not distracting. It just kind of, it's instantly eye-catching. It looks kind of neat. The venue they were in looked kind of neat. They were in Vegas or something, and looked good. It just, everything looked good. And I was like, okay, we'll give this a shot. Give it a chance. So, we will see how all of that goes, but that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching the video this week. Again, if you want to submit questions for the question and answer video, you can DM me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, or the email address that's listed in the description down below, so be on the lookout for that. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I will see you all later.